Welcome. In this presentation, we're going to take a look at continuous monitoring under the GDPR. My name is Darren Delaney. I'm Director of Product Management at Netfort. So GDPR, like all business activities, is governed by people, technology and processes. It's complex regulation. For my part, I'm going to really focus on the technology piece here. So what role has technology to play within GDPR? Now, the reason this regulation has come about is because of issues such as the TalkTalk data breach, which happened last year. Now, in this case, hackers compromised, penetrated our network, and accessed some information. The company was fined 400,000 sterling. But if this was under GDPR, where the fine would equate to about 4% of revenue, the fine would have been about 59 million. So GDPR has taken a much tougher stance and view on any sort of breach within a network. Now, in recent weeks, there's been another data breach in the US with the Equifax company. In that case, about 23 million records with credit card information was mostly associated with US citizens was accessed. And it all became about because their network was breached and information got leaked out. So to be making your network secure, you need to be aware of the risks. So any accidental, unlawful destruction or loss, alteration, unauthorized disclosure of our access to personal data. So this is within Europe, this is what they don't want happening. Personal data to be accessed by people who are unknown or destroyed by individuals and maybe even from within an organization. Now, to achieve this, it all comes down to good security operations posture, such as patching, identity and access management, encryption, and good monitoring. Just look at the recent ransomware outbreaks, such as WannaCry. Huge volumes of personal data was accessed, was deleted, destroyed, and this is something you don't want happening on your network. The GDPR, when it comes to technology, one of the things it looks at is continuous monitoring, which is vital to building and maintaining secure networks. So what I want to see is robust security operations and analytics platform architecture. So you can monitor user access to data. So you can look back at forensics reports. So if there was any hint of a breach, can you go back and find out when it occurred, what was accessed, how did they get in? Was there a particular PC that had a vulnerability? Maybe a user opened an email. So do you have that forensics data to go back and understand what happened? Do you know what protocols are in use on your network, both historically and in real time? Because hackers are clever. If there's a protocol in use in your network, they could use that protocol to tunnel another protocol. So you really need to understand what's happening inside your network. Do you know of any problems with data exfiltration? So personal data, could it be leaking out? And specific threats such as ransomware. Can you detect the presence of ransomware? It may be obvious, well, the users ring up and say my files are encrypted. But in some cases I've seen it, users get messages on their screen and they just ignore it. They just either are too busy, they get worried, they just shut down the machine. So have you some other way of identifying ransomware? Now, from our side in Netfort, we developed a tool called LangGuardian, and it provides continuous monitoring. Now, the advantages of our approach is that, number one, it's passive. So if you are looking at monitoring tools for GDPR, you got to look at the actual implementation. Some will require you to install software on every single device on your network. Others are passive. So our system is passive because it uses network traffic analysis as a data source. Does it apply? Can it monitor all devices? In case of LangGuardian, it can, so you don't need any agents or endpoint software. Our tool monitors what's happening inside your network, and this is crucial. There are a lot of systems out there that can see what's happening at the edge. Firewall logs, all sorts of things that sees at the edge, traffic, that type of thing. But under GDPR, you got to make sure you're looking at everything that's happening on your network, and that includes inside. And can you get a reporting such as user reports, applications, data, what inventory you have in your network. And these are things that we can provide using our tool, again, which is called LandGuardian. So let's talk about some specific use cases and which apply to GDPR. The first one which we address is knowing what's on your network, because you can only protect what you know about. So LandGuardian is an excellent tool for auditing access to unstructured data. So data on the move, stuff moving around internally on your network. You may not know that data, what it is, but we can monitor that and tell you what's happening. We can report in on what applications are on your network, what devices, who's on your network. Are there maybe third-party contractors connecting in on some tunnel that they've opened up and they're doing some work? Do you know that? Have you got any reporting to show you what users are doing? And also what protocols are used. So there are many protocols now that you should not be using, and examples would be SSL 1.0. That is seen as a insecure protocol. It could be compromised. SMB, Server Messaging Block version 1, that was used as part of the WannaCry outbreak. That is an insecure protocol. You shouldn't be using it on your network. So do you know today if any of these protocols are used? And if so, you need to make changes. You need to get rid of them or make sure the systems that are using those protocols are very well patched. Second use case I want to talk about is knowing what is happening on your network. So the previous one is more about the infrastructure and the protocols. But then who exactly is doing what? Are they changing things on your network? Maybe somebody's brought in some new device and they're copying a lot of information off your network shares. Is there anybody scanning your network, doing recon work? Are they from external? Are they trying to figure out a way into your network? Any unusual behavior? An unusual behavior again could be something like scanning, but it could also be that somebody's installed Dropbox and suddenly you've got a huge amount of data leaking out of your network. Are there any systems on your network connected to external hosts? Now that happens all the time because if you browse the web you connect to an external host. But what if you're connecting to hosts in countries where you wouldn't expect to be doing business? Can you report on that and see that type of unusual activity? So I'm now going to look at a short demo. I'm going to take a look at those use cases in a bit more detail. Okay, so I'm now on my demo system here. So before I start, just point out some of the features in the GUI here. Their dashboard view here, firstly, are ideal for that real-time view. So do you know what's happening on your network right now? Do you know what protocols are used? Do you know what's happening right now? Also, beyond GDPR, for an operational tool, if the network's running slow, the internet running slow, file servers are running slow, there's something users are ringing up complaining, your dashboards is where you need to go because they provide a current view of how your network is being utilized. If it's a historical problem, you need to investigate. So maybe there was a report of a breach and you need to investigate that. You can either use the search facility here and select the time range. So we may be able to go, we may have to go back in time, select a particular time period here, and take a look at the information that was captured at that point. Or if it's something very specific, so we may be asked about a particular user, maybe was a network scanned last week? Do we know that? So we can pick the network scanner report, choose the time period, whatever that is, and run the report. In this case, there was some scanning, but we'll take a look at that now in a few minutes and when we drill down on some information. So your dashboards and your search and your reporting. So the first one is, what is happening on the network right now? What's moving around? What are people doing? Well, let's have a dashboard here created with probably some of the reports that you should be looking at when it comes to this regulation. So here we have, for example, top protocols. This is what applications people are using right now. There's web browsing, there's file sharing, there's more web browsing, which is secure. Interesting, we have a lot of RDP. That may be of interest because potentially somebody maybe have a remote control session open on the network. And if this is external, we got an issue. So to understand more, we can simply click here on this segment and we can see the source. Now the source here, we see a little home network, it's local. So, okay, this isn't a big problem. It's not an external person connecting in. Drill down and we see what they're remote controlling, this device here, and they've downloaded 700 megabytes from that. I want to double check the username and see, okay, Walter here. So Walter, we know Walter, he works in IT. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Let's go back to the GDPR dashboard. So if you see protocols here that may be unusual or you just want to investigate, 25% of activity is file share traffic. Let's investigate that, drill down. Slightly different view than the RDP. Here we can actually see the files that people are accessing. So we scroll down here, oh, somebody's accessing customer information. So that's a sensitive file. Let's investigate that. Click on the volume here. And we find actually there's 2 clients who are accessing that file. Let's see who they are. So we got Laura here and Leo. Now we understand Laura, she works in that sales department, but Leo is somebody new here. Why would they be accessing that particular information? So we want to take a look at Leo in greater detail. And to do that, and this goes to the forensics part of GDPR. For a given piece of data, username, a file name, an IP address, a server, whatever that is, you're asked to investigate. We pop in the username here, Leo. We run a search. So Leo is, obviously he's on the file shares. Oh, this looks worrying. He is also using Dropbox. So we potentially have an issue here with data exfiltration. We need to talk to Leo. He is accessing customer information and at the same time he's running Dropbox. So that information potentially is leaking out of the network. And this is something under GDPR you don't want happening. You don't want customer information coming off your network and then going into services such as Dropbox. You just don't know where that data is going to end up. Let's go back to my dashboard. So that's your looking at what's happening inside the network. So as you can see, a few clicks and you can investigate. Some things are fine. Some things may warrant a chat with the user. Another view here is who are the top users. So we've already looked at Leo. Ian here, quite a lot of activity associated with Ian. Click, drill down. You can see it's mostly web browsing. Have a quick look at that, and it's basically Windows Update. And this is important too because under GDPR, you got to make sure your systems are being patched. So with a product like LandGuardian, you can run a report to see what systems in the last month maybe have accessed Windows Update, so that you can then make sure that people are downloading patches. Or if user has an issue, you could check back and see did they ever contact Windows Update. So that's our first 2 elements. Further down here, again, which I talked about earlier in the presentation, you need to know about what is connecting to your network. So let's extend here this DHCP report, which shows us what devices have connected to this network. I'm looking at the last 24 hours. Small network, but just as an example. So what we're doing is we're keeping inventory of all devices. In my case here, I've actually got 2 Android devices, both OnePlus, their phones. We also have a user laptop, some sort of a device, user laptop, which is actually running it's a virtual machine on VMware, would appear. And we have also the IP address and the, the MAC address. May not have it on this, my demo. We have the server MAC address here. That's what I was looking for. So that's the device that allocated the IP address. So what we have here is an inventory of every device that connects to your network, when it connects, what IP address it was assigned, and so here we have the first time this device was recognized or detected on the network. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier on, what you also need to be watching out for is any unusual behavior, scanning, malware, that type of activity. So within LandGuardian, there's an intrusion detection engine, and it's watching out for that unusual behavior. Are the people scanning, or is there particular payloads that look dangerous because they're known to be associated with a particular piece of malware? Let's have a look at my top network events. So hit the little arrow here to extend the report. And yes, I've got a couple of issues I need to investigate. We got some user defines. Let me just talk about those first, because within that LangGuardian you can define business, what we call kind of business type events, where you can say, okay, I need to know what users are bypassing the proxy. I need to know we have an old file server. As part of GDPR, we've decided to retire that server and put all the information on a newer server. But we need to understand who's accessing that old file server. So we have a number of events here, and these are the clients that are accessing that old file server. So we need to visit those and change the drive mappings. We also have users bypassing the proxy. Everybody should use the proxy, but we have a whole bunch of clients here who are just going direct. So there's some business kind of rules I've added in. Okay, we've got some net scans. So that's your scanning. Okay, let's investigate that. Breakdown by source. So we have a number of machines here. This is probably the most worrying one here because this is in Russia. So yeah, I'm worried about that. What is it doing? So it's making connections here inbound on over ICMP. Okay, so I definitely want to block this IP, maybe even block this port. ICMP use it off for pings. So yeah, this is definitely a worry. I need to investigate how come this IP is getting through my firewall. Other things we have got going on here, we've got BitTorrent people are using. That's a protocol we don't want, so we drill down and get the clients. But we've got some malware here, also ransomware. So these are real issues that I need to take a look at immediately. So let's have a look at, well, either of them. Let's take a look at ransomware. So this user laptop 4 here, we need to get this off the network. This has got this. What it's at is it's trying to contact a domain, which is this guy here, which is a domain known to be associated with WannaCry. So this is captured through DNS traffic decoding. So it's not trying to do IP lookups. It's all done by analyzing the DNS traffic. And because this domain has matched a particular signature within LangGuardian, this event is triggered. So that definitely would need to be investigated. Likewise here with the malware here, if I drill down on that, I need to investigate it. So this is a network where there are a lot of issues that I need to address, and under GDPR, there is no doubt there's things I need to do here, because if I don't address these problems right now, data will leak out, my network will be compromised, hackers can get in. There are users who are also leaking data to Dropbox, we saw. So a whole bunch of problems here I need to address to make my network more secure and more compliant. Let's go back now to my dashboard and look at one or two other things. The file share actions here, we talked about insecure protocols earlier. We got some SMB version 1. We've got some files being renamed, some file reads. Let's take a look at this one. We've got data being deleted. Now, again, you don't want personal data to be removed. So if data has been deleted, you may need to find out who's doing that. So let's take a look at this report here. Oh, somebody has actually removed profit and loss accounts 2010. That is potentially a major problem. That's a shared database. Who deleted that file? Okay, Leo here in finance. So maybe a mistake, but quick call to Leo might confirm what's happening here. And one or two other things I want to talk about. Here we've got we've already detected Dropbox, but this element here on my dashboard is showing all activity associated with that cloud storage service. So we've got a number of clients using that. We don't want to, especially if it's GDPR, you don't want to have users with free access to, Dropbox or SkyDrive or whatever their preferred cloud storage is. So with LangGuardian, you can get a report as to who's using those services. The final element I want to take a look at here is this inbound flow. So what we have here is clients which are external, in countries such as the Netherlands, France, US, Japan, Ukraine, and so on and so forth. They're connecting to devices inside my network. Now, the most interesting one here is this guy because, well, it's the one that's appearing in pretty much everywhere. So there's something running on this device, which means that lots of external hosts want to connect to it. So we want to do forensics on this one. You don't want, you may end up blocking all of these or blocking the ports. But let's take a look. So we'll run our search here and see what this client is running. Why are there people trying to connect to it? So when we look here at the results, okay, there's some file share activity, but this machine is running BitTorrent. Okay, so BitTorrent uses a lot of connections to share and download data. So that would, and there's also malware. So I need to get this client off the network. This is bad news. So that's a very quick demo which covers, knowing what's on your network, looking back historically, looking at unusual activity, and making sure your data is secure, and that when it comes to GDPR, you're keeping your data as secure as possible, but also that you have tools there like LandGuardian to be able to report and make sure that there's nothing unusual happening on your network.